the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. No, it said 15 minutes on the timer, but I'm ready now, so I figured, fuck it, I'll start early. And right now, we are returning to the Civilization VI game that I was playing earlier on the language-related stream, and having a cup of tea to wake up. There. That's better. Okay. Let's get some medieval walls in Xi'an. I'll stick with monarchy for now. Just haven't got all the prerequisites to switch over to communism yet. Okay. Now it's time to figure out what else is going on the other continents that I can't see yet. Okay. 貿易路の目的地を選択してください。Cartagena. There we go. Oh, this is the brokest I've been in this game. $87 gold. I usually have... Well, normally I play a longer game, but normally I also have like 20,000. Okay, put a university in there. And... How you doing this evening, chat? Okay, we finished the walls. Oh, an aqueduct sounds nice. Make an aqueduct. Rules.
Harald Sigurðarson stendur fyrir þér. Aldrei var víking slík landsnje lagar. Ertu hræddur?
Okay, we've met the Norse. Yeah, it works. Okay, so there's the land of the Norse. Let's see where we end up in this direction. Yeah. Have an embassy. Everybody gets an embassy.
自然に近づくものを人が生み出すことはめったにないが、ハンセンはそのわずかな例外だ。
Okay, we've got square rigging. And now we're going for some astronomy. Okay. And let's see. Chengdu. Barcelona. Cartagena. Okay, Delhi.
We are, by the grace of God, Victoria, Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, and soon, dare I say, the Empire.
Oh, you don't, because I'm going to invade your ass. Another embassy. 国は実に豊かな宝に恵まれているようだ。金はいくらあっても困るものではないというわけかな。Okay. And this will be... Puerto Octay. Al lado de San Pedro de Atacama, porque sí. He's unhappy with me. And they're annoyed with me too because I settled too close. So is China. Go, some more emissaries. Okay. Ships are gonna meet in the middle. Kodo Senso. Ah. Yes, he wants me to go to war with the Congo. I don't have any particular interest in going into war with the Congo. But he's offering money. I'll take the money and just not go to war with the Congo. 위대한 정. Hey chat, how's everybody doing? Oh, we found a village someplace.
Gott grüße euch, Geselle. Ich bin Kaiser Friedrich und herrsche über deutsche und welsche Lande, über Burgund und manche mehr. Ich weiß wohl, dass auch ihr könnt geherrschen mit rechter Gewalt.
Okay, we've got Barbarossa, patron saint of failing to invade Russia.
If 天文学を楽しみたければ天文学者にはなるな。
If you want to enjoy astronomy, don't become an astronomer. If you become an astronomer, suddenly you have like weird-ass aliens trying to get you to solve their three-body problems for them. Let's get a frigate building. If I'm going to invade Britain, I need a frigate. Okay, another trade route. Okay, finally the gold is moving up rather than down. Oh, okay. Let's sink some barbarians. Ah, 思想の違いもそうだが、あなたの民を統治するやり方は私にとって許容できるものではない。Ah, he's annoyed with my form of government.
"生物は二酸化炭素を毒だと思っていない。植物や殻を作る生物、サンゴは建築資材だと思っている。
And a bit of farming.
「人間に絶望してはならない。海の水と同じく たとえ数滴が汚れていたとしても、海のすべてが汚れるわけではないのだから。
Okay. Shrine. Oh, we've got some citrus to harvest. Get some citrusing. Cool. 人の姿を知った悪魔だ。ゴーの名は5章まで呪われよう。He continues to be annoyed with me.
Mikill skipaafli. Það fagur sjón. This time I've gone with a new naming convention. Chilean place names. We got Chañaral, Puerto Varas, Santiago, Osorno, Temuco, Concepción, Ancud, San Pedro de Atacama, Puerto Octay. In no particular order.
都市への攻撃は下策中の下策である。それは最後の手段でなければならない。
Okay, we get a scientist.
科学を
That'll be
重視
handy.
する我々の姿勢が大科学者を呼び寄せました。彼らの助けにより我々の科学力は一層の発展を遂げるに違いありません。
Okay, now where can I put this? Oh, lots of places. Don't usually have this versatile a scientist. Renaissance walls. Get some Renaissance walls as well. Geeky. There, let's get that citrus going. Round up those oranges.
You tread on dangerous waters in the face of England and her loyal colonies.
We will see.
いかにして戦争を遂行し、それによってどのような目的を達成するのか、それを明確に思い描かないまま戦争を始める者はいない。より正確に言えば、自覚的にそうする者はいない。
Okay. Commercial hub, Puerto Dial. Oh, somebody started a war. Oh, we got a spy. Excellent. No tech. I basically use spies to steal tech bonuses, so... Oh, yeah, that sounds good. He's got aviation.
新しい考えというのはまだ普及していないというだけの理由でいつも疑われ大抵反対されるものだ。
Proletarian in there and sort some things out.
ライフル兵を罵る前にまず彼の立場になって考えることだ。例えば自分は射程内にいるのかなど。
Scientific theory. Cavalry.
Ich verstore meine Feinde. Und ob ihr ihnen helft, auch ich.
Normally I have a pillow in here for lower back support. I was trying to figure out why I was feeling so awkward in this chair. Oh, that's so much better. I forgot all about that. I did two and a half hours today without that. And it makes a difference. Okay, let's get some sources since that's 100% and increases my likelihood of managing anything else. Oh, that's so much better. And for this just joining, we're playing some Civilization VI for another 15 odd minutes and preparing to invade Britain. After that, we're going to do some chud roasting. We'll have the chud rotisserie.
事実と理論が合致しないなら事実を変えよう。
工業か、経済学、公衆衛生、工業かだ。そして騎兵。Okay. There, add another trade route. Okay.
.私は天国にも地獄にも肩入れしたくない。
Okay. まだまだ共産主義の選択肢は発動化されてない。かつて人を導くことは暴力を振るうことだった。だが今の時代では違うと私は思う。私と共に友情を築いてはもらえないだろうか。Oh, India's offering friendship. Take some friendship from India. There we go. Okay, let's start stealing tech. There we go, another trade route opened up. Let's see. Research agreements aren't an option. That's unfortunate. But
Deal sounds good. Hmm.
この群島の自然の歴史は類を見ない。まるで独立した小さな世界を宿しているかのようだ。
Good team.
これ実に豊かな宝に恵まれているようだ。金はいくらあっても悪いものではないというわけかな。
He's impressed that I have gold.
暴力的経済を象徴する言葉、それは都市化、工業化、集中化、効率性、数量、そしてスピードである。
Koushu is no joke. Okay, get the steam engine. And how many? Oh, I get one more trade route, so that's good. Yeah, have an embassy. Sounds good. And Tonto. Lady. Go. Oh, I get another trade route. That's handy. Nidos 進めていたミッションが失敗。スパイは発見されませんでした。Okay. So I failed in my mission, but on the other hand, my spy did not get caught. Okay. Let's see what else is going on this continent. He's pissed off. I've almost got the steam engine. And my hands are annoyingly dry. Okay. Set up a harbor. Yeah, okay.
蒸気機関の発明以降、科学の発展が人類にとって良いことばかりであったかは意見の分かれるところだ。
Okay, we've got a steam engine. Now it's for some sanitation. So there are a number of options, chat, for who we're going to roast today. I think they will all be very interesting. Oh, the Vikings want to offer me friendship. Wait. How am I failing twice in a row with a 63% chance of success? Frigate.
オペラでは背中を刺されても人は血を流さず、代わりに歌い出す。
Okay. And with that, it is time to start the roasting portion of the evening. Quick save. Return to desktop. There we are. This strongly appears to be Elon Musk's alt account on Twitter where he roleplays as his own child. Okay, that is like equal parts weird and sad. Much like Elon Musk. Okay. There we go. So, we've got the CIA and the synthetic left, parasocialite at CPI Lynn Valley Training School. The official trailer of the CPI. The arguing, so this is another CPI video. They've now got their own fucking channel here. Be patriotic, arguing socialism series tip number 7. Let's see. We've got Vosh being wrong about Chile. Caleb debunks Jordan Peterson's truth about communism video. And a video that actually seems to be that calls Graham Linehan unironically a woman's warrior, which is of course why his wife left him and doesn't want him near the kids, because he's such a woman's warrior. I mean, like, why even the TERFs tell him to shut the fuck up and stay in his lane. So, okay. Let's look at the official trailer of the CPI, why don't we? That's a short one. Just make sure that I got enough space for recording. Yeah, that should do. So we're gonna look at the official trailer of the CBI. I like how that there's an organization has a trailer now. That's a thing that exists. Okay. Can it possibly be more cringe than his video about, than that fucking cartoon of his? There we go.
Our country has become more prosperous for many, but in the name of that wealth, we cannot justify our system as a center for the world's values when we continue to create such war and chaos in the world.
Who is this speaking? That voice is not familiar to me. If you're just joining, we are looking at the official trailer of the Cult for Political Innovation, Caleb Maupin's little ego organization.
It's kind of like putting a pebble in somebody's shoe. It's one you plant.
I mean, okay, so the idea is that Caleb Maupin is annoying?
That little idea that maybe the system's not so right, maybe something's wrong, and they'll...
This is how you can tell when people are just totally fucking alienated from, like, the working class. Because they think because they think working class people need to be told that the system sucks. Look at the polls. Most of them already get that the system sucks. That's not a new thing. People have been thinking that the system sucks for fucking decades. For longer than most of the motherfuckers in this organization have been alive. That's not the difficulty. Thinking the system sucks is common coin. The problem is convincing people that something can actually be done about it, and, you know, that your ideas about it have merit. And people don't need to be told the system's... If you're talking to people who don't get that the system sucks, you're probably talking to people the system doesn't suck for. And that's a really odd choice if you're trying to be a revolutionary organization, which they like to cosplay as.
They'll have that pebble in their shoe, and the longer they walk on it, they'll realize there's something wrong. This is something uncomfortable. It's getting worse and worse, and that's how you reach people.
Imperialism is not a policy. Imperialism is not when you send troops into a country. Imperialism is not the same thing as colonialism. Imperialism is an economic system.
Like, this is the trailer. This is supposed to be the summary of what this organization is about, and so far it is disjointed as fuck. And also, imperialism isn't an economic system so much as it is an expression of an economic system. And it's worth noting that in his book that claims that BreadTube is a CIA psyop, he says that he uses the term imperialism as a synonym to globalism, with the 3 parentheses around it.
Imperialism is capitalism in its monopoly stage. Vladimir Lenin wrote a very important book called Imperialism the
It's a very important book. God, I mean, he talks to everybody. The more I watch this guy, the more I am convinced that he is trying to channel the spirit of all the most annoying junior high vice principals who ever lived. It's a very important book, people. It's a very important... You gotta pay attention, people. Now, let's remember that the last time we saw him, He was talking about how cool it was that a billionaire by the name of Jim Rogers wanted to invest in the DPRK. Like, yeah, which apparently has nothing to do with imperialism. Well, unless you read that book, which he clearly fucking hasn't.
Highest stage of capitalism. Imperialism is an economic system where countries around the world are kept poor so that Wall Street and London can stay rich.
The process of establishing...
There are capitalists outside of Wall Street, and he doesn't know that London and the City of London are two separate political entities. That's so cute. He does not know that the City of London is actually a completely separate thing from London. It has its own government. It has its own fucking representation in Parliament because it has been considered a separate entity by law for centuries. Conclusion. The process of establishing the foundations of peace in our lifetime is not simply a matter of convenience, but rather it is indeed a matter of necessity. Okay. It is those who have a theory and those who strive for action. Strive for action. They not necessarily do any action, but you strive for the action. You try to have actions. Who will change the course of human events.
The foundations of peace in our lifetime is not simply a matter of convenience, but rather it is indeed a matter of necessity. This is our historical material responsibility as communists in the United States. I want to say this again. This is our historical material responsibility as communists in the United States.
These people do not know how to edit a montage. This is just so badly edited. This, like, you can tell that as utterly cringy and ridiculous as that fucking cartoon was, that he has been so comprehensively roasted for using. At the very least, somebody who knows something about filmmaking was involved in it because the editing was reasonably good. This is like, all these repetitions and shit, you've already lost people. You're doing a trailer, it's supposed to just be a summary of what you're all about. And this is like snippets of lectures that I didn't want to be at. And then you have them repeating themselves. This is shitty editing. Like, there should be a narrative flow in this. Like a montage. Here's where we these images should flow, and the sounds, the music, and whatever that goes with it should flow as well, and create a sequence of ideas. I mean, that's what we're talking about. That's what you do with some kind of like trailer or something like that, to give people the broad strokes of what something is all about. And what this does not flow. This is like the most viscous fucking trailer I've ever watched.
States. It is those who have a theory and those who strive for action who will change the course of human events.
In the United States, we often hear jokes with people all over the world, and I think we do it ourselves, where Americans are so dumb, Americans are so ignorant, Americans don't know geography, and...
Okay, again, like, what's this for? This is supposed to be the trailer. We haven't even heard the name of the fucking organization. I'm giving this guy filmmaking tips now. That's how far we have sunk. I'm giving this guy fucking filmmaking tips.
I don't think that any people, any nationality is inherently dumb or not. I think that the American working class has been robbed of education. We've been robbed of knowing different parts of the world. It's so much so that we've been robbed of our own history. An ignorant population.
Oh, okay. That's a bit telling on themselves. Because, see, Oliver Stone's Untold History of the United States. Not like all the legit. Yeah. This fucking link spam. Shit. Bye. Yeah, not into the link spam. I had this exact same, spam bot earlier today on my other stream, just a different name. What I was saying was, see, you know, you could use, I don't know, if you wanted to use something that was kind of consistent with this message that actually people in the US have occasionally, working people in the US have occasionally done some really pog shit in resisting, you know, capitalism, imperialism, or whatever, which seems to be the idea. I mean, like, fucking Howard Zinn's A People's History would be a place you could go, except that, and instead he goes for Oliver Stone, who is, oh, I'm not, this is, yeah, you don't get to advertise that shit on my VOD. I'm rebooting the chat window just to get rid of that crap. The guy who is just all sorts of just anti-Semitic or borderline anti-Semitic far-right conspiracy bullshit. Oliver Stone.
Is a submissive population. It is the best way to, you know, keep us in the dark, keep us individualistic, non-communitarian, and therefore we'll never question, we'll never rise up, we'll just consume whatever they feed us. And unfortunately, a lot of the American left...
See, that's actually, all of a sudden we've got some reasonable montage going on here. It's like somebody who knew something about putting a series of images in order to convey a theme had something to do with this video, but for some reason they were only allowed to look at like 15 seconds of it.
Left has also fed into that. They don't want to talk about the history of, you know, the great worker struggles that have happened in this country.
What leftists don't want to talk about the great workers' struggles that are in this country? I mean, there is shit named, there are like leftist publishers named after some of the more iconic worker struggles in this country, like fucking Haymarket. I mean, all sorts of shit. I mean, there's fucking commemorations of that. I mean, there are... The idea that leftists don't want to talk about U.S. history, and particularly the areas of history that involve resistance to this, like, horrible capitalist slave state, you know, and settler colonialism and all that shit. I mean, that's just wild to be claiming that. I mean, but what I think what it comes down to is that most of them will not try to give it the pat sock treatment. Because the thing is that, I mean, leftist histories of the United States are not going to generally be patriotic ones, because that would be fucking bullshit. I mean, I would go so far to say as I wouldn't recognize it as a leftist history of the United States if it was patriotic. Because being, like, nationalist in favor of a fucking settler colonial regime like the United States, there's nothing really leftist about that. That's the sort of ideology that you need to be shedding when you start the path towards, you know, leftism or whatever.
Great resistors. To be revolutionaries, to love your people, to have that, you know, revolutionary love. Che Guevara said that he was once jealous of the American worker because we have the greatest fight of all to build socialism within the belly of the beast. And we need to have a care and love for our people that is not nihilistic. Because that's not...
as opposed to, what the hell is... And who is our people exactly? Who are they talking about when they say our people?
Not gonna win. It hasn't won for the past 70 years. We need to try socialist patriotism, and the way that we do that is not through national nihilism. It's not through these failed ultra-leftist CIA-influenced politics that is so...
Oh, here we go. The Congress for Cultural Freedom. He can't shut up about that.
Popular in the U.S. left. It's about getting back to Marxism, Leninism, and, you know, follow...
Except, I mean, getting back to Marxism, Leninism. First of all, they have moved so far. Caleb Maupin in particular has moved so far from anything that is recognizable as Marxism, Leninism at this point. Well, the whole thing about, like, fucking pro-US nationalism already, the idea of pretending that Trump is some sort of hero of Korean reunification when all he did was gate crash a summit that the two Korean states had already agreed on and made it impossible for them to actually achieve anything. I mean, I'm not a Marxist-Leninist. I have a lot of disagreements with their entire approach to things, but I recognize Marxism-Leninism when I see it, and this shit ain't it. This is not Marxist-Leninism.
A strategy that's worked everywhere in the world. Again, show me where national nihilism has success.
What the hell is national nihilism? Define national nihilism first.
Successfully produced a revolution, a socialist revolution.
You know,
well, I mean, wouldn't okay, so the idea is that whatever the hell national nihilism is didn't produce a socialist revolution, but surely what would produce a socialist revolution would be socialism?
You know, the world is constantly changing, and that most people around the world are good. And I think that people lose sight of that. But I think most people in the world are good. They want to take care of their family. They want to help other people. They have compassion. They have a desire to do
they hold national flags up and sort of grin into cameras.
Kindness. And that most people are motivated by goodness. And that if we, as socialists and Marxists, want to try and build socialism, we need to appeal to the goodness in people. And we need to not appeal to people's...
Well, how are you appealing to the goodness in people, though? When you just create... I mean, all you do is, like, smear people who are actually some kind of leftists. And appeal to anti-Semitism. I mean, it is so weird when he starts... All the shit he does, most of it is just pure, you know, just smearing people who have much more claim to be any kind of principled leftist than he ever has had. I mean, it's wild. You know, he just, like, anti-Semitic dog whistles all over the place, and, you know, anyone who criticizes him is a CIA psyop, not somebody who might just disagree on some shit. And anyone who does not try to combine nationalism and socialism, because, there might be some history there, I don't know, of those two things not going together very well. That you know, some kind of national socialism might have actually been a bad thing. I don't know. That might be something for them to look into when they're studying their history, since they want to study history. But yeah, this does not feel like appealing to the good. This doesn't even feel like appealing to anything. I mean, this is just... This isn't really appealing.
Jealousy. We need to not appeal to people's desire for revenge or chaos. We need to not appeal to
who's appealing to people's desire for chaos?
Anger and their rage, but we instead need to appeal to the goodness in people. That's my book, City Builders and Vandals in Our Age.
Which appeals to the anti-Semitism in people.
I talk about what I call the city-building tendency, and I go back...
Which completely coincidentally shares an abbreviation with cock and ball torture.
To, you know, Athens. And I talk about, you know, Socrates. I talk about Confucius. I talk about Julius Caesar and his efforts to try and reform the Roman Empire. And that socialism is the constructive side of the human race. And that one of the things...
this is just...
I feel like the left, in a lot of cases, does try to appeal to negative emotions.
Well, first of all, I don't know about the concept of negative emotions to begin with, because, I mean, I think it depends on the context and what you do with it. I think I'm guessing he's talking about, like, anger, but the thing is, anger is something that people feel, and if you want to talk to, if you want to, even seem to people like you're from the same fucking planet as them, you have to actually acknowledge and legitimize their anger when they're legitimately pissed off about something. I mean, telling people to calm down in this fucking junior high vice principal voice. I mean, he's talking about this like he's so great at just bringing the masses together, but when you look at their, like, public events, when they go out and have a little rally, and it's just them standing there, 5 or 6 white guys with one bullhorn and a bunch of American flags, seriously, and nobody is going anywhere near them, because everybody sees white guy, bad suit, bullhorn, and they think, okay, this guy's about to talk to me about sodomy. I'm gonna get the fuck out of here.
To negative, destructive impulses that people have. And I think that's a mistake. Look at every building in the New York City skyline. Look at every great achievement.
Look at this wonderful camera work that is actually making me a little bit sick. Okay.
That's been created. That is human beings coming together, collectively working together.
Okay, the whole point of that right now was to show that placard, which was never even in focus.
Around a common vision to build something beautiful.
Wait, is no, I'm in HD. They decided that this wonderful like blurry, like semi-pixelated image is how they want to present him. I mean, if you're gonna use this, you could just use the audio and put it over something that is visually appealing, as opposed to making everybody think they need to clean their glasses.
We are a progressive species, and we are a collective species. And the problem is...
The hell is a progressive species?
At this point, human beings, we have been infected with the free market, with capitalism, with the system of profits and command. And it's time.
Yeah, see, you basically never hear him just say profits. And there's a reason for that. He's okay with profits. He stands the Chinese capitalism to the hilt. He's cool with profits that are substantial enough to result in fucking billionaires. So the idea is not that we're supposed to, not to get rid of capitalism, not to get rid of the profit system altogether. No. The idea is that, I mean, some sort of FDR type bullshit.
Time for human reason and rational thinking to take control. That the word revolution itself, right? The word revolution, it originally referred to the fact that the Earth is revolving around it, right? The Earth revolves around.
This is their introduction. Like, how is this supposed? Who's this supposed to appeal to? He's now talking to you like you didn't know that revolving was also a word for, like, turning around.
The sun, that's the root of the word. And it was people who didn't go along with the Roman Catholic Church and their belief that the Earth was the center of the universe.
Okay, I have a distinct feeling that this is not the root where we get the word revolution. Etymology. I am fairly certain that that term has been around for much longer than that. Online etymology dictionary. Okay, late 14th century. Okay, it was originally of celestial bodies, one apparent rotation about the Earth. That at the time it wasn't the Earth around the sun, incidentally, because people hadn't actually worked that out. At least not in Europe. Yeah, it was the idea of everything revolving around the Earth because they were still geocentric. I mean, let me see. Actually, okay. The sense of an instance of great change in affairs is recorded from mid-15th century. The political meaning, overthrow of an established political or social system, is recorded by circa 1600, derived from French, and was especially applied in England to the expulsion of the Stuart dynasty under James II in 1688, and the transfer of sovereignty to William and Mary under a purer constitutional government. So, yeah, okay, he's managed to get all that shit wrong. And this is not off the cuff. He could have checked that out. There is absolutely no stake in this version of things. He could get it right, and all that would be was him getting a thing right. But instead, you know, with all the time...
People who called themselves revolutionaries were the people who believed in science and understood that actually the Earth revolves. That's where the root of the word revolutionary came from.
No, it really isn't. This is totally wrong. The root, the root has absolutely nothing to do... It was literally the opposite. The root was at the period when geocentrism was still completely dominant.
Now, after the events in France in the late 1700s, it became a political term. But
100 years earlier than that, the events in England made it a political term.
Originally, it was a scientific term for how you understood the universe. And that points to the essence of what a revolution is. A revolution is not an act of violence and chaos.
Yeah, see, he says this as if the people who acknowledge that there tends to be violence in a revolutionary period want it to be like that. Like, if there was a way to do it without the violence and still get the exact same outcome, overcome the capitalist system, replace it with something where you have the working class controlling the means of production and production for need, to each according to their needs, from each according to their abilities, and all of that, without a single person getting even punched in the face or whatever, that people would opt out of that. And that's bullshit. Like, literally, anyone you talk to who acknowledges that force plays a role in these things will tell you the reason is quite simply that the ruling class doesn't like the idea of being overthrown. And they have a hole, and their ace in the hole is that they've got the means of violence. The state is a monopoly on putatively legitimate violence. And so when you manage to constitute a threat to the power of the ruling class, to the power of their state, then shit gets violent. It's not because people are just like fucking happy to do violence. The fucking fascists from January 6th, who he likes to stand, did seem to be very keen on doing some violence. They'd done quite a bit of it, actually.
A revolution is not an act of destruction.
Not just on January 6th.
Revolution is an understanding that science must be applied to humanity.
Revolution is an understanding that science must be applied to humanity. No, it isn't. It isn't that. Like, what the hell does that even mean?
And that rational thinking can be applied to society. Society can be reorganized in a rational way. And that is what the word revolution means. The term revolution is about applying science to the human.
He hasn't, they haven't even said the name of the CPI once in this thing. We're 6:26 deep into an 8-minute and 30-second video. And the Center for Political, his fucking cult, has not been named. It's just, people making random reflections as we look at images that don't sometimes seem to have some kind of context.
Human condition. And that's what the Center for Political Innovation aims to do, to apply science, scientific thinking.
Oh, wow, we got the fucking name of the organization in there. Good job there. Only 6.5 minutes in. Hello, chat. If you're just joining now, we're looking at the official trailer of the Cult for Political Innovation, and it's not very good.
To how we can get out of this crisis. Socialism.
Like, do they have editors?
Is a move.
Oh, here he goes using the section of the Communist Manifesto, like one of the only things by Marx he's ever read, that Marx and Engels specifically distanced themselves from after the fucking Paris Commune failed. After the Paris Commune was crushed, they went back and said, yeah, I mean, if we'd written this knowing that, this section would have been totally different.
Movement dedicated to having all society take control of the major centers of economic power, having the banks, factories, and major industries organized to serve the people, and not simply...
Wait a second, that's not what it says. Like, why, if you're gonna just completely contradict that, why not just not show it? Because what it specifically says directly contradicts his entire, like, stated objective. After the productive forces have also increased with the all-around development of the individual, and all the springs of cooperative wealth flow more abundantly, only then can the narrow horizon of... from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. And of course this is in the context of the working class controlling production, which he opposes. I mean, at the very least, I mean, there's no two ways about it. He opposes it. He just wants the state to run things. As long as the state's running things, he's kind of cool. He doesn't really care how the state does it, as long as...
factories and major industries organized to serve the people, and not simply the profits of the big multinational corporations and bankers who own them. It is about putting the people first and eliminating the rule of profits. And the goal of socialism is not to have a total government domination of the population. It's not to build an authoritarian police state. It is the opposite.
Except that, I mean, he's actually said elsewhere, when he was in the little conference with Russian and French fascists, including Alexander Dugin, he actually said what got him into leftism was watching revolutionary armies goose-stepping on parade.
The goal of socialism.
And if your argument is, I'm pretty sure that's Shanghai. If you're trying to say we're not trying to make it, create an authoritarian state, then why are you showing us like the fucking Chinese cityscapes? Because look, I mean, one thing that you really cannot say about China is that it's not a pretty authoritarian state. I mean, whatever you think about, like, there were, like, economic and social achievements, which are, many, which are real. I mean, it would be silly not to say that they aren't authoritarian. They kind of are. They're pretty high on the authoritarian scale. I don't believe in, like, this simple binary. I think authoritarian, when you use it as this binary the way liberals do, because liberals make language bad. They make terminology useless. As if there's, like, authoritarian states, and it's always states the United States government doesn't like, and then the other ones. And that's just a meaningless thing. I mean, what you need... Authoritarianism is a useful concept if you're using it as a scale. That there are systems that are more authoritarian than other systems, and systems that are less authoritarian, and it just sort of moves along the line. Like, the US is more authoritarian than a lot of places, less authoritarian than some, just to give an example. Then it can be a useful term of analysis. But not like this.
A society that is so prosperous and so abundant, in which there is so much wealth and prosperity, that the very...
So prosperous, and it has prosperity.
...need for all government can fade away.
Yeah, which is not how any of that works.
In which there can be so much material abundance that people can live on the basis from each according to his own ability to each according to his needs.
Yeah, except, again, not how that works, because the thing is, there is no level of abundance, of productivity, where there isn't a very clear advantage in controlling the result of that production. It just doesn't exist. As long as there is some concentration of power, as long as there's a state, as long as there is some sort of ruling class other than the working class, somebody will always have an interest in monopolizing that production and preventing communism. So it's not just gonna fucking fade away. You're always gonna have to fight it for it.
Want to end, since I just told you that that revolution has a very different meaning than what
yes, and he doesn't know what it is.
we're told. Now that I've explained the real meaning of the word revolution, I want to end the way I end all my lives by reciting a very, very important statement, one of the final statements of Chairman Mao Zedong, the author of the Little Red Book.
Just in case you didn't know who Mao Zedong is. Like, I mean, he just thinks that the people who are watching him know nothing.
He said,
ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers...
God, this guy is so red you could, like, put him on a stick and wave him on May Day.
...have been continuously launching wars of aggression. The people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression.
Hey, God, this is just so visually compelling.
While the danger of a new world war still exists, the people of
we get to see his nostrils.
All countries must get prepared. Revolution is the main trend in the world today.
Like, how could you watch this and even come away with the impression that the CPI, that even the CPI knows what the CPI is about, apart from just being an ego vehicle for fucking Caleb Muppet? Okay, second video. Where shall we go next? Okay, we're just gonna continue on. Look at Be Patriotic.
America is...
Wait, doesn't this just make you... Does it make... I mean, how could an anti-imperialist who's interested in leftism not just have their heart melted by the fact that they immediately, like at the very beginning of this video, are like associate their organization with fucking Donald Trump?
It's the greatest place on earth.
We have, without hyperbole, the greatest fighting force in the history of the world.
This preoccupation with being number one strikes me, ladies and gentlemen, as I say, as a sign of weakness, not of strength. As a sign of insecurity, not of security.
Like, is this all this is gonna be?
People who know who they are don't worry about being number one. People who are in touch with the deeper values of...
Well, I mean, of course the thing is that the whole thing that the U.S. ruling class cares about is being on top of the entire world and being able to control everything. So when your entire thing is to maintain full spectrum dominance, as like the Project for a New American Century put it 20 odd years ago, yeah, then being number one is kind of fundamental.
Of social justice and democracy don't get a number one thrill from stomping on a tiny nation. People who seek...
Wait, I mean, Joe Biden gets a thrill from stomping on any nation. In fact, that's the entire fucking U.S. fucking military doctrine. Yeah, it has been basically since the 1990s. Decisive victories against much weaker nations. Because it's understood that's basically, that's basically all you can manage without people just souring on it. And the reason this did not happen in the case of Iraq and Afghanistan is simply as a miscalculation. They figured it was they figured it would be a rollover. They figured people would just, you know, immediately just flock to the superior force, as if they did not have a long history of repelling foreign invaders and not really particularly liking to have them. And yeah, so there we go.
Friendship and cooperation with other peoples don't need to lord it over other nations and outshine them.
Oh, that's fuck. That's Michael Parenti. For a second, they had this Biden stuff, this Biden image, and it looked like he was moving his mouth. So I thought that was Biden speaking. That was Michael Parenti. I've read Parenti. I've not really ever heard him speak. So okay, that my mistake there.
Them. Such a people don't have to find reassurances in them.
Like, why do we? This is. Again, what the fuck are we doing here? This is like another one of these completely disjointed fever dream montages. And what the hell does this image here of the fucking presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump have to do with what the fuck, you know, Michael Parenti saying
looking at or imagining the deficiencies of others. And they don't feel threatened by the accomplishments and strengths of other people. Now, seeing the hypocrisy and evil that's done under the name of patriotism, there were many on the left, especially during the Vietnam era, who began attacking the symbols of patriotism.
Which is right, actually, because the thing is, it's not just people on the US left doing that. The thing is, symbols of the United States in the rest of the world, outside of the Imperial Core, are very unpopular because they stand for the United States, and the United States is unpopular.
Who began attacking the symbols of our country. They put blame on everything on an entity called America, and they even spelt America with 3 Ks. They burned American flags, thereby...
Yeah, like people do all over the fucking world.
Convincing millions of our compatriots that they were traitors, or nuts in any case. They blamed America for what was being done in its name by a coterie of imperialists and militarists. And
well, I mean, America is, it's, first of all, like, God, this is really not his best stuff. This is not Parenti's best.
Capitalists. And these imperialists and militarists and capitalists, in turn, legitimated their own crimes by wrapping themselves around this same flag. They were a lot smarter.
Well, yeah, exactly. They were wrapping themselves... That's the whole point. That's why it is a useful symbol to attack. Because the entire ruling class uses that in order to control the workers. That's precisely why it's a useful symbol to attack. Not to mention the fact that, again... It's a very popular, I mean, burning the US flag is kind of a popular thing worldwide outside of the Imperial Core for reasons that are very widely understood in those places, because the US has not got a record of doing good things when they show up there.
While we in the New Left were burning flags, I never burned a flag, but I mean, you know, our guys were burning flags, they were wrapping themselves around in the flag. And they could conveniently brand then all opposition to their policies as attacks against America. Not criticisms of Nixon, not attacks of Nixon's policies, but attacks against America. It was giving them then a remarkable psychological advantage.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that is the psychological advantage that comes from just lying. And the fact that they're talking to a different target audience. One of the mistakes people make is just assuming that there are a huge number of people who vote for Republicans who, you know, who just need to, you know, see a few American flags at a leftist demonstration to move over. And it's just... There's such a thing as class interest, and actually the people who... And actually... To the extent that it is even possible for people who aren't capitalists to vote in their class interests in the US, which basically it isn't, you can see in the stratification of voting behavior that that's actually what's going on. So, like, this idea that you can sort of wrap yourself in the flag and suddenly everyone's gonna... When you're trying to challenge the existence of the entire regime, the settler colonial state on on huge surface of stolen land, then that has, in the name of that fucking flag, just done hideous things throughout the world, maybe you shouldn't be wrapping yourself in that fucking flag.
It became very easy for ruling class representatives like Richard Nixon that day, and today people like Gene Kirkpatrick and Ronald Reagan, to brand the protesters as part of that, quote, hate America crowd.
Yeah, that wasn't a new thing then either. They've been doing that all along.
I think perhaps the anarchist tendencies in the new left added fuel to this super patriotic bonfire. And
this wasn't a novelty, and blaming it on anarchists is just kind of weird. But I mean, not that it's blaming shit on anarchists is sort of a popular tradition. Lots of people love to blame shit on anarchists. But yeah, the idea that this was just a recent development in the 70s and 80s, this sort of hyper-nationalism in the US, it's nonsense. I mean, you go back to the 40s and 50s, there was plenty of it. Throughout the 20th century. In fact, there's a great book by a guy called Lawrence Friedman, written in the 1970s, called Inventors of the Promised Land. And it goes back and looks at the origins of these just ultra-nationalist myths, all this myth-making. It goes to when they were putting out the alpha versions of that shit in, like, the early 19th century. To look, to get in and look at it, when it was at the ground floor, and make sense out of it, and just show the degree to which this country has constantly been awash in ultra-nationalist propaganda from the ruling class. And these cults of personality around the founding fathers and the fucking Constitution and all this shit. I mean, that isn't a novelty, and it isn't a response to the new left. It is just the reflex action of the ruling class in this country. They've been doing it, go back as far as this regime has existed, which is a very long time. And you will find that that is common, and it isn't actually just limited to the US. The US is pretty extreme about it. But, I mean, that's using nationalism in order to suggest that, yeah, leftists are actually allying with the enemies of the nation or something like that. That is the oldest trick in the fucking book.
Anarchists see the state as the enemy, rather than the particular policies and particular class interests.
Is this all we're gonna get?
In a sense, I would argue, I don't want to push this too much, but that they're a mirror image of the super patriots. They elevate the state to a disembodied entity.
Wait, that's the ANCAP. Wait, ANCAP with an AK? That's a new one. But, okay, is this all?
The way that we do that is not through national nihilism. It's not.
Oh, and this is just the same. Oh wow, this is such crap. I mean, this isn't even like they have all the they have this cult. They've got these cameras. They could have actually just shot something. And instead,
democratic way, not with secret crypto-fascist coteries in the national security state, but with open debate and open challenges against privileged interests. Real patriots know that democracy is not just the ability to hold elections, but
what about, see, that implies that, nationalism is a good thing. I mean, so there people will be like, oh, patriotism and nationalism aren't the same thing. It's bullshit. They're the same thing. Patriotism is nationalism when you're trying to be positive about it. And of course there is a difference between the sort of like nationalism of colonized people who are trying to reclaim their cultural heritage, which has been, taken away from them and mutilated and distorted in all sorts of ways and criminalized, and the nationalism of like the ultimate settler colonial regime like the United States. Those are different things, and this is something that, right? I mean, CPI and fucking and Caleb Maupin are very keen to make people forget, and this is one of the things that actually gets them a lot of criticism from Marxist-Leninists as well, because they tend to understand this distinction. I mean, I know Luna from Luna has certainly just absolutely roasted him over this. But I mean, this is just such nonsense. And I mean, this is like worse than his usual videos, because it's just all he's doing. I mean, what gets me even more though is he stands the shit out of China, and here he is using Michael Parenti. Why not? Just use Michael Parenti's words. Why, instead of just like offering your own argument? Admittedly, this does kind of obviate the benefit of your think tank if all you're doing is, audio quoting other people who aren't in your think tank. But Michael Parenti does not actually have a lot of good to say about China. He's actually extremely critical of China, and but of course, anyone who knows the work of Michael Parenti well enough to know where he actually stands on China, and that he actually would disagree with this bullshit, with the Caleb Muppet and the CPI, is already self-selected out of this thing. Like, just basic political literacy, basic literacy in the sources of, like, theoretical argument in your chosen ideological tendency is sort of already self-selecting out of this. But I mean, this is just such a hot mess. Well, chat, it's about time for me to wrap up. It is almost 1 o'clock. And I will, however, be back. Thank you to everyone who has been watching. I will be clipping this for a VOD later on, sometime this week. I've got other stuff I also need to do. I always have a backlog of that shit because I've got so much other shit I'm doing. In any case, I'll be back tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time to continue this, play some Civilization VI, and roast some liberal and reactionary bullshit as we do every week. I look forward to seeing you there.